spent a long time trying to decide whether or not to make this video, and I've had the day off today. I've had all day to make the video, and it's now 5:45 in the evening, and I've just decided I've got to do it now or I'm not going to get it done for probably another week. Whether or not I upload it is a different matter, but you will have gathered from the title that this is quite different to my regular videos, and obviously the title gives it away. Basically, I suffer depression, and I have done for many years. I was first diagnosed with depression about 18 years ago, and at the time I just had my third child, but he was actually nearly a year old before I was diagnosed with postnatal depression. He's now 19, and of course all these years later it cannot still be classed as postnatal depression, just the same as this weight that I'm carrying cannot be passed off as post-baby weight, even if I try to make people believe it is. So basically it was explained to me that postnatal depression triggered this hormone imbalance that is in my brain and runs in the family. I'm not going to go into details of my family because that's personal for them, and I wouldn't want to talk about any of my family members without not only their permission, but permission from, you know, it's not just them, it's people close to them as well that might not want me to discuss it. So I'm just going to talk about myself, my own experiences, and I want to say right now, please, if I say something that you take as offensive, I do not intend to offend you in any way, shape or form. I know I may say stuff that people might think, that's not the case at all, you're wrong. And please feel free to leave your comments, but do try and word them carefully, because naturally, with me suffering depression, if I read nasty comments or comments that come across as quite harsh, that doesn't help the situation at all. But I'm very conscious that I might say things and you might just take that as either offensive or wrong information. I'm giving you my personal information, my personal experiences, and so I don't want to have to keep being careful of the words I use. So the words I use may not be very politically correct or correct at all. I know I waffle. What I want to say in my head makes an awful lot of sense, but getting the words across is quite difficult. So anyway, I'll start, and you'll probably gather what I mean as I talk along. I didn't expect to suffer postnatal depression because I was having my third child, and I felt as if it was something that you would perhaps get after your first child. I also have been working in childcare for 30 years, so I had been working as a nanny to a very young baby before I had my first, and I'd been working as a nanny to a newborn before I had my second, and so I was on my third child, and at the time I was a childminder, so I always had children in the house. I had looked after lots of 4 different newborn babies, and so I didn't feel as if I should get postnatal depression. And the reason for that is because I was naive. I didn't totally understand it. I feel that I'm good at having children, and this is where I'm worried about my words, because there are people out there who struggle to breastfeed, or who struggle to bond with their children, who didn't feel that motherhood was natural to them. And I'm not trying to imply that they're not good mothers, but what I'm saying is, for me, I didn't really have any trouble giving birth. I didn't really have any trouble during my pregnancies. I didn't really have any trouble breastfeeding, and everything came very natural to me, and it's just something that I feel I was naturally good at, and it's kind of what I was put on this earth to do, was to be a mother and to have children. And I would have gone on and had many more had it have been something that my husband would have wanted to do as well. So I foolishly thought that I wouldn't get postnatal depression either, because there's a bit of me that kind of felt it was almost a failure as a mother. I know that's wrong, and this is why I'm so worried about offending you, especially if you've had postnatal depression, or if you've not been able to breastfeed, or whatever might have happened. That you know, what I want to say is, it doesn't matter. We're all good mothers at the end of the day, aren't we? And I've often joked actually with my children. I've sometimes said, look, you're alive, aren't you? You survived, when they sort of comment on the fact that I don't cook them a lovely hearty homemade meal every day of the week. And I've said, hey, you're still living, aren't you? For goodness sake, I've done my job. So yeah, digressing, waffling, whatever, I'm going off track. So basically for me, the depression started with postnatal depression, but I realised many years ago that this is something I'm going to live with for the rest of my life. I've been on antidepressants since that time in my life, and I've had the dose increased. I started off on well, I think I've tried a couple of different antidepressants, but I started off on a 10 milligram dose, and at some point or other I was put up to a 20 milligram dose. But recently I have been suffering more than just the normal depression that I have. It was really quite severe, and I thought it was the menopause. I'm 48, and although that's not necessarily, that can be a bit young for the menopause. My sister and my mum had both had it by the time they were 48. So I presumed that was what it was. And the reason I didn't know whether it was the menopause or not is because I have a Mirena coil fitted. So I haven't had periods for about 5 years. Prior to that, the reason I had it fitted was because my periods were so heavy that I was leaking within half an hour. And I was using a moon cup. So we are going back 5 years. I was using a moon cup, and they usually hold more of a flow than your regular Tampax or towels, so they hold more, but it was still leaking within half an hour. So it was a very, very heavy flow, and that's why I had the coil fitted. And I've had it in for 5 years. It's coming to the end of its life, which is what made me think the depression is the menopause, it's the lack of hormones in the coil, so on and so forth. Anyway, I've been to the doctors, and I have now had my dose increased a second time, so I'm now having 30 milligrams of my antidepressants, and I have had blood tests which have found that there is nothing wrong with me. There's no reason for me being down and depressed. There's no reason for me being tired and lethargic all the time. There's nothing wrong with my thyroid. There's nothing wrong with, I'm not menopausal. My hormone levels are fine. So I don't know why, which is why I have agreed to take this increased dose of antidepressants. It's not ideal, and I have tried to come off them in the past, but for me, I've decided that I will probably be taking these tablets for the rest of my life. It's not fair on the rest of my family if I don't take them, because it's not just me who suffers, it's everyone else who suffers as well. So anyway, when I was going through this depression, I am coming out the other side, I suppose, because that increased dose of tablets is beginning to work now. I've been on it for maybe 3 weeks, and it's perhaps beginning to take effect. And so, anyway, I realised I had 2 choices, which were to either completely give up YouTube altogether or not, to carry on and to perhaps share with you my depression story. And so, as you can probably gather, that's what I've decided to do. And one of the reasons for that, I think, was my daughter. My eldest daughter is married, and she's obviously not living at home. And when I told her that I was thinking of giving up YouTube, she said to me, I enjoy watching your videos. She said, especially when I'm home alone. Her husband often works nights. He's a policeman. He does some long hours. And so she's often at home on her own. And she said, I quite enjoy watching them when I'm home on my own. And so I thought, well, it's kind of worth it just for that, if nothing else. It was one of those comments that made me think, oh, shocks, I'll make another video, I'll upload some more. So the content of my channel will be a little bit different. As you know, as I've said before, I do struggle with new ideas for videos. Often I'll have an idea and then I'll realise that it's, I kind of tend to think, I don't want to do that, it's not great. Excuse me for my dog. It's getting near to tea time, and that's why she's whinging. So yeah, I would like to record a little bit of my depression story and how I am going about combating that and how I'm doing. Also, that will probably coincide with the regular kind of content for the channel, because I do believe that by minimising my stuff, by living a more simple life, that will help with the depression. I know from experience that it does. So hopefully the channel won't go too off topic. Which you may have come across this video and never seen me or heard of my channel before, because the title may be something that's appealed to you. So basically I'll just let you know that normally what I talk about is a more minimalistic, simple life. I try to produce very little waste. I initially started talking about zero waste, but zero is, for me, impossible. I'm not saying it's impossible for everyone, but for me it's impossible. So low waste, you know, I care very much about the environment, and I care very much about people and animals. So when I'm buying, I try to buy ethically, and those things do actually make me feel good about myself and make me feel happy. So those are things I will probably still talk about, but I will also let you know how my depression journey is going. I just want to try this. I think maybe it might be helpful for me to sit and talk to the camera and upload the videos. We'll see what happens. You may also have noticed that I've deleted a few of my videos because I just went through and thought, they're crap. Why does anybody watch these? These videos are terrible. So I've taken them down. And it was just all where my mind was at the time. Not in a good place, but getting better. And I do thank you for your comments. I read all the comments. I'd love to respond to them all, and I do respond to them all. Sometimes it's just with a little thumbs up to let you know that I've read it, because I don't always know what to say, and I sit and think, what can I say to that? And I want to write a comment as a response, but I can't think of anything to write. So thank you for the comments anyway, and please do try to keep them sensitive to my where my head is at the moment. And yeah, hopefully I'm back. Bye bye.